All right, Friday, February the 12th edition of the Carolina Weather Video. We're going to talk about a bitterly cold weekend, a little snow today as well, and watching that potential system for Monday too. So let's get right into it. Starting off with the Greensboro Tower camera this morning. It's pretty cold across the Carolinas again this morning. The temperature 24 at the PTI airport. Now notice that dew point temperature at 5. That's a factor regarding today's weather. More on that in a second. There's your highs yesterday, a touch warmer than the day before. In fact, Charlotte able to get actually a pretty decent afternoon out of it, 48 there and 55 down in Columbia yesterday. Right now, it's pretty cold, 24 in Greensboro, as I showed you, 26 degrees in Raleigh, Boone at 24, Charlotte 32, 44 in Charleston. All right, winter weather advisories up in the mountains and back to the west of there, and then also winter weather advisories here in eastern North Carolina. Roughly I-95 over to the coast, and then a winter storm warning in effect for far northeastern North Carolina. And it's all due to an area of low pressure moving into the region. Now, the mountains are going to pick up the most snow with this, but you notice even out through the Piedmont zones, I cannot rule out a dusting of snow today. And there's your little footprint of heavier snow potential. And again, it's still relatively light, but maybe a couple inches there in northeastern North Carolina. I'll show you all that here in just a second. Appalachian Ski Mountain, look at that. Looking great. Absolutely fantastic ski conditions at all the resorts across the region. Looking really, really nice if you want to head up there today or the weekend. All right, so on the radar, most of what you see right now is evaporating before it's reaching the ground. It's called virga. Now you look further to the west, and I think as you get back here into Tennessee and North Georgia, you're seeing a little bit of an increase in the coverage of precipitation. That's with the upper level dynamics beginning to swing on in. And as that works eastward, I do think some of us pick up some light snow or a few snow showers. And again, it's probably most widespread there in northeastern North Carolina this afternoon. But even in the I-85 corridor, could get a dusting in a couple spots if you get a brief period of some decent snow rates, but just not enough snow to be a big deal. Let's all be snow on the high resolution modeling, and you get the idea. Just a quick hitting little shot of some snow for some of us here as this Friday rolls along. Highs on the cool side, certainly, again today. And then here we go, a big time Arctic shot for the weekend. Tomorrow's high temperatures freezing or below in a lot of the Piedmont of North Carolina, and certainly the foothills and the mountains. And then we're still in the grips of that really cold Arctic air for Sunday. Starting off Sunday morning with low temperatures that look like that, and then there's your Sunday afternoon high temperatures, a very cold weather setup. Now I'm going to show you all the detailed modeling here in just a second, but here's my storm track idea for our Monday system. I have not made big changes at all. In fact, I don't think I've changed the track of this low pressure at all. There is still model madness going on. I think what you're looking at is well, again, I'll explain it in more detail in a minute, but I think initially Sunday night or Monday, in a lot of the western Carolinas, even the central parts of North Carolina, you see a shot of some snow or sleet, and then as a warm nose aloft kicks over, probably a period of sleet and freezing rain before a lot of folks kick over to rain. Now, where that rain and snow and sleet and freezing rain line set up, that's the $1 million question. I'll show you the, I believe this is still the 0Z run of the GFS. I'll have to verify that, but there's what it was putting out for snow potential and ice potential. Now, that's actually the 6Z run, the 6Z run of the GFS now into the system. Now, let me show you some of the detailed modeling, and we have all sorts of craziness going on. Now, the reason there's still a lot of uncertainty here, and this might be a little tough to see, but there's the hemispheric view. This is the entire northern hemisphere, and our storm system is still out here in the Pacific Ocean. Data sparse region, you don't have a lot of upper air sampling out there, and you're talking about the difference in track of 100 miles making a huge difference in the tangible weather impacts here across the Carolinas. And so while you may be saying, if you're watching the models, wow, this run had us getting a lot of snow and ice, this run now has us getting all sorts of rain, uh, you're not talking about massive, massive differences in many cases. It's just a big difference in what type of weather you see based on a small changes in the track of a low pressure that's now 4 days away. Now let me show you the European model, okay, and we'll start there. Now this is what the European looks like, and I'm telling you, at 500 millibars, this model has looked different every single run, and it's a different run, a different look this time. Monday night, you have one bundled piece of energy along the Gulf Coast, another one diving in behind it. 18 hours later, big negative tilt trough with, again, those two distinct pieces of energy still pivoting through. The surface on the European model, you end up with a surface low there centered over the western upstate of South Carolina. And of course, that is not what snow and ice fans want to see. That would be all rain by that point in time Tuesday morning. The ensemble mean, well, let's see if I got the ensemble mean stuck in there. Well, no, I don't have it. All right, there's the GFS, though. And notice the GFS model is a little bit further east, but still, that is a primarily rain scenario by the time you get to Tuesday morning there on the GFS. Now, on the Canadian model, it is a different scenario, okay? This is Monday evening on the Canadian at 96 hours. And then you go out to Tuesday morning. Now, that is a much more favorable track for wintry precip in the cold air damming areas of the western Carolinas and even down into northeast Georgia. Now, why is it so different? Okay, I'll show you why. Okay, let's look at 500 millibars aloft, okay? Now again, let's go back and remember what this looked like on the European. All right, so there's the European model valid at 108 hours up at 500 millibars. All right, remember that look. Let me show you the Canadian model then at 500 millibars at that same time, Tuesday morning. And while it's overall fairly similar, you notice you don't have really the bundled pieces of energy. You end up with the cold air being a little bit more pronounced out ahead of the system. And another thing is the timing. The timing is a little quicker in getting this in here on the Canadian model. So let me show you what it looks like on the surface maps here. Since I'm showing you the Canadian, I'll start there. So you notice by Monday morning, it's already snowing in much of North Carolina on the Canadian model. And that's key. If you want to see wintry precip, you need to get that precipitation in here sooner for a couple of reasons. One, that's when the air is colder. And two, if you get precip in here Monday while the air is still cold and dry, it helps to lock in that wedge and set up that in situ type of wedge that would give you a more pronounced period of freezing or frozen precipitation. All right, so that is Monday morning on the Canadian. There's Monday early afternoon, where you've kicked over to some ice, northeast Georgia, upstate of South Carolina, up to Charlotte. Many of those areas, same areas, still seeing ice Monday early evening. This is overnight Monday night, and again, the cold air just stays locked in. And a big reason is this low pressure does not run up into the wedge. It kind of develops around it, and then there it goes up through eastern North Carolina. And so the favored cold air damming areas on the Canadian model rather, stay all wintry type of precipitations. And because of that, again, let me resize this. Give me a minute where you can see it. You end up with a snow chart on the Canadian that looks like that. That's a massive snowstorm. And the ice accumulation chart looks like this, as a massive, massive winter storm on the Canadian model. Now, it does not have a lot of support. Let me show you one model that does sort of support that idea before I show you the bad-looking models for winter weather fans. This is the UK Met, and it's kind of similar. It's tough to tell because you don't get nearly the number of panels in terms of by hour on the UK Met model, so you kind of have to extrapolate, but that's certainly not a wrapped up amplified solution like the European and the GFS are showing. So speaking of the European and the GFS, let me just show you. Here is that European model run. All right, so this is 84 hours, a little bit of light snow initially, but boy, this thing just takes off. There's your low pressure ramping up into Alabama. By Monday evening, warm air advection flooding into the Carolinas. And again, this is all rain as you get into Monday night, even Monday afternoon in some spots. And then there goes the low right over the western Carolinas. And that is not what you want to see if you are a winter weather fan. The GFS computer model, this was the 0Z run. There's your initial finger of some snow. Monday morning, it's very light. You go 6 hours later. This is still pretty light stuff, but this would be a little glazing of ice and snow in many spots as Monday rolled along on the GFS. 6 hours later, the warmer air is kicking into gear. And there you go. It's all rain on the GFS by Monday night. Even in the mountains for a period of time, it's all rain before the snow kicks back into gear. And the 60 is even worse. This is by Monday night, Monday evening rather, on the 60 run of the GFS, the latest run. Low pressure even further north over the Tennessee Valley. So we'll see. I mean, it's a changeable forecast. Finally, before I wrap it up, I'll show you the WPC ideas. There's Monday morning, and then there's Tuesday morning, and that's kind of the track I've been basically favoring. I think for the I-85 corridor endpoints north, you certainly see some wintry precip to begin the system, and then it's just a matter of how much that wedge can get locked in, how long those sub-freezing temperatures can hang on rather. Inevitably, a lot of folks kick over to rain, I think, but the question is how long does that period of wintry precip stick around? And I'm telling you, I don't think the Canadian model, although it's extreme, I don't think that idea is that bad of an idea. I've seen them a million times where that wedge is more pronounced, even though there's not a high pressure to lock it in. But if you can get that precipitation in, it kind of locks in through the evaporational cooling process, that dome of sub-freezing air. It is very, very tough to dislodge, and it's very tough to ram an area of low pressure right up in there, and you kind of see it develop in as the Canadian shows. Again, let me show you this one more time on the Canadian model, and I'll wrap up the video. So you end up with this high pressure wedging down. There's your low over eastern Alabama. This is Monday evening. And then you see that just kind of develop up into the eastern Carolinas instead of ramming right up into the wedge. We'll see. I mean, this could wind up a big rainstorm, but we'll see. I think there's plenty of reason to keep watching this in the cold air damming areas for sure. All right, that is it for today's edition of the Carolina Weather Video. Everybody have a great day and a great weekend. Stay warm, and God bless.